She didn't flinch when she saw the blood, or the burns, or the way he scrubbed both like he wanted the skin gone too. "Are you good with lye?" she asked. He kept scrubbing. Steam rose around his wrists. The well water ran red over the stones. "I asked a question," she said. "I heard." She waited. He looked up. His face was hollowed, eyes dark-set, like a man who hadn't slept in days or weeks. He said, "I make soap." "Winter's coming," she said. "I got fat to render. You want a roof? You'll boil it." He stared past her, toward the woodshed. "You live alone." "My husband's in the ground." "That counts?" His lips pressed together, then nodded once. She turned without another word. Didn't wait to see if he'd follow. He did. The house leaned into the wind like it knew how to brace. Wood soft in places, iron hinges too cold to touch barehanded. Inside smelled of ash and root vegetables. She pointed to the far corner. "That cot's clean. Floor's yours to sweep. You'll use the back door, not this one, got it?" He nodded. She handed him a chipped tin cup. "Soup's in the pot. Won't poison you." He drank like a man who hadn't in days. Hands shook. "You burn yourself?" "Soap pot," he said. "You running from something?" He didn't answer. She didn't press. Later, he cleaned the floor without being told. She watched from the porch, blanket around her shoulders, watching the trees shift like they were listening. The next morning, he was already at the fire pit, sleeves rolled, fingers wrapped in cloth. The big copper pot smoked. She tossed him a bucket. "That's pig fat from the butcher. Use it all. I'm not wasting nothing." He nodded. By midday, the lye stung their noses. He stirred slowly, carefully. "You don't ask much. You don't answer much." "I buried someone," he said. She kept shelling peas. "Not mine," he said. She didn't look up. "Does that bother you?" "No," she said. "We all bury something." That night, she left a blanket folded on the cot. When she returned from the barn, it was still folded but warm. He sat on the edge of the hearth, staring into the coals like they might burn him clean. She said, "The last man I let stay here wouldn't stop talking. Why is he gone?" "That's not your question to ask." He nodded once. Outside, an owl cried once and stopped. She caught him by the well again on the third morning. Same shirt, same hollow look. Only this time, he wasn't washing blood. He was staring into the water. "You gonna throw yourself in or just curse at it?" He blinked. "You got something buried near here?" She crossed her arms. "Everyone around here does." "No," he said, quieter. "Something fresh." She stepped closer. He pointed at the stones. "Smells different, like meat that's gone sweet. Something's turning." "You think you're the first man who's noticed rot?" "No," he said, "but I'm the first man who knows what rot means." She stepped forward until they were face to face. "You stay here," she said. "You don't go poking around my land. You boil fat. You cut soap. You sleep quietly. That's the deal." His face didn't change. "What if I already saw something?" "Then you keep it buried." They worked quietly that afternoon. The sun never broke the clouds. Steam rose off the pot like a breath. Every stir sent that strange smell higher, thicker. "You gonna tell me what's under that house?" he asked. She didn't answer. "'Cause something's under there," he said. "I know rot." She tossed another chunk of fat into the pot. "Have you ever boiled someone before?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Have you ever run from someone you boiled?" He didn't flinch. She said, "You're not the only one who's been through smoke." He stared at the pot. "This batch will be done by sundown." "Good," she said. "You'll cut it tomorrow. Keep what you need. Rest goes in the storeroom." He nodded. Then, without warning, he said, "My brother was sheriff in a town south of here." She stilled. "He disappeared after a fire. No one found him." "You think I care?" "I think you should." That night, she dreamt of boots on cellar steps, damp boards, a girl's voice singing a lullaby she never learned. She woke to silence, the kind that pressed in on the ribs. The cot was empty. She went to the back porch, shotgun in hand, quiet as breath. He was at the woodpile, kneeling, digging. She said nothing at first. He kept at it. Then she stepped down into the dirt. "You think you'll find bones." He looked up. "Number, I think I'll find something worse." "Like what?" He pulled out a muslin-wrapped bundle, stiff with damp, stained dark. He unwrapped it, paused. Inside, a length of cloth, a child's shoe, 2 teeth. She said, "That wasn't for you to find." He said, "You knew it was there." "I didn't say that." "You didn't need to." He wrapped it back up. She said, "You done?" He stood. "Your land's not clean." She looked at the ground, then at him, then walked back toward the house without a word. At breakfast, she didn't speak. Neither did he. The only sound was the spoon tapping the edge of his cup. "You think I'm the only one who put someone in the ground," she said finally. He looked up. "This house burned once," she said. "Fire took half the roof, took more than that inside." He said nothing. "I locked the cellar after, never opened it again." He said, "That's why the air's thick down there?" "You went in?" "I didn't need to. I smelled it." She didn't move. He said, "You want me gone?" She shook her head. "Not yet." He said, "Why not?" She said, "You know lye better than I do." They cut the soap the next morning. Square bars, cloudy, flecked with ash. He carved letters into the top of one. She saw. "What's that mean?" she asked. "Initials." "Whose?" He said nothing. Later she checked the stack. G.E. George. Her hands curled without thinking. She whispered, "He never came back." He said, "You buried the coat." She turned. "You watched?" He didn't answer. "Then you already know what I did." "I know what you buried. That's not always the same." She found him again that evening at the woodpile. The air was colder. The ground is harder. He was kneeling again, not digging this time, just sitting, staring at the house. She sat beside him. After a while, he said, "I didn't mean to hurt her." She waited. She wasn't supposed to be there. Still, she waited. He said, "They sent me to burn it down." "I didn't know there were kids." Now she looked at him, long and hard. He said, "You want me gone?" "No," she said. "Why not?" She touched her own wrist, the burn scar. "We all got ghosts in our fire." He nodded, then sniffed the air and said, "Your land smells like something still rotting." She didn't argue, because he was right. The orchard behind the barn was rotting from the inside. She didn't speak of it. Neither did he. He stood at the back fence, hands in his coat, staring at the twisted limbs like they might twist back. She said, "Apple trees don't grow right out here. Soil won't hold the roots." He didn't turn. "They're not dead. They're dying slowly." He nodded. "You always let strangers in?" "Only the quiet ones." His eyes moved toward the warped frame by the edge of the orchard, roof sagging, door unhinged. She followed his gaze. "I don't care what you see out there," she said. "You don't go near the well house." He didn't ask why. She didn't offer it. In the kitchen, she unwrapped waxed linen, pulled fat from the cellar hook. He watched her lay it on the block, slice thick, slow, even. "You clean your knives?" "I clean what needs cleanin'." He stared too long at the trapdoor. She shut it with her boot. "You got rules?" he asked. 3. He waited. 1, she said, "You don't ask what's locked." "Okay." 2, "You don't walk past the barn after dusk." He blinked. "Why not?" "You hear a voice out there, you don't answer." He tilted his head like he'd half smiled, but he didn't. And 3, "No questions about the cellar." He looked at the trap door again, then said, "You keep something in there?" She didn't respond. "That's not a question," he added. "That's a feeling." She picked up the knife again. "I don't care what you feel." They boiled soap for hours. Fat sizzled. Lye thickened. The barn smoked like something inside it was breathing heavily. He stirred. She strained. He said, "The man before me. He follows the rules." She shook her head. He made it halfway. "Which one broke him?" "The voice behind the barn." "And what did he do?" "Lit a match." "Smart." "He burned with it." They didn't speak again until dark. That night she found him on the porch, coat tight, hand wrapped from the stirring. He said, "You married long." 12 years. That long for this place. He wasn't born here. He came from the ridge. What happened to him? She stared out at the orchard. He made a hole where there wasn't one. He didn't ask what she meant. Instead, he said, "You bury him near the well house?" She turned slow. He added, "Not a question." I said, "Don't go near it." I didn't. "You're circling it in your head." He said, "You don't mark your land by fences. You mark it by fear." She stepped off the porch. "Get inside," she said. You're not built for cold. He stayed out there another hour. In the morning, she saw the tracks. Barefoot, small, just one set. She followed them to the back steps, then nowhere. He was already at the fire pit. Did you sleep last night? She asked. He nodded. Where? Cot. You sure? He said. I don't dream. So, yeah. She stepped closer. Something walked through the yard, she said. I didn't hear it. You don't have to hear it to know it's real. He said nothing. Don't lie to me, she said. He reached into the pot and stirred, then said, You don't lie either. At noon, she caught him near the orchard again. He held something in his palm. Small, smooth, clay-colored. She asked, Where'd you get that? Was in the dirt. You dig? No. Then it came up for you. He handed it to her. A marble, red swirl inside, warm to the touch. She closed her fingers around it. That was hers, she said. Whose? Girl from the ridge. She played with it before she... He waited. She vanished the year the barn caved. That girl got a name? She dropped the marble in the ash bucket. Not anymore. They worked side by side again. Lie stuck in their noses. The wind stung more today. He said, You keep the well house locked. It doesn't lock. Why not board it? You can't board a mouth. He looked over at it. Looks like a shack. You see wood. I see a warning. He paused. Have you ever heard it talk? She said nothing. Have you ever answered back? She stopped stirring. Her knuckles were white. Then she said, That's enough for today. He didn't argue. That night, the wind knocked something against the side of the house. She lit the lantern, opened the back door. Nothing there, but in the dirt, a single footprint, small, deep, bare. She left it untouched. At dawn, he was already kneeling by the fire pit, shirt off, steam rising off his back like he was part of the boil. She brought him clothes. Why stay? She asked. You don't seem like a man looking to be kept. I'm not. Then what are you? He looked at her, looking for a thing that won't let me leave. She knelt beside him. You think it's here? He said. I think it's always been. By late afternoon, the pot was full. She stacked new molds on the table inside. He brought in the lye bucket, careful not to spill. She said, You know what it does to skin. I know. Have you ever seen it used for more than soap? He paused. Once. Where? He looked at the window, then back at her. She said, I used it on the last man. He didn't flinch. Why? He put hands where they didn't belong. He nodded. You think that's wrong. I think he got off easy. They didn't speak the rest of the evening. When she stepped outside after supper, the wind had shifted. The orchard was creaking like something alive. She moved slowly around the barn, shotgun in hand, boots soft on the dirt. Behind the well house, the ground was disturbed, fresh. She crouched, dug with her fingers. Something soft, still warm. She pulled it out. A doll's hand, sewn, burned at the wrist. No head. She stared at the well house window. The wood there was clean. Too clean. She circled around. He wasn't in his cot. The door was open. She stepped outside, into the dark, saw him kneeling near the window. His hand was in the dirt. She whispered, What are you doing? He didn't turn. What is that? She asked. Still no answer. She stepped closer. The shotgun was cold in her grip. Then he said, It was already here. What was it? He turned to her slowly. Hold up something small. A badge, child size, rusted through. She took a step back. That's not yours to touch, she said. He pressed it into the earth, slow, like giving it back. Then I looked at her. Your land remembers. She stared at his hand. The dirt still clung to it. You bury that for her? He said. For all of them. Then he stood, walked past her, and didn't speak again. She stayed by the window. I watched the badge disappear under the dry earth. I watched the orchard bend, watched the well house breathe. She saw him from the loft window, kneeling by the orchard, muslin in his hands, stained the color of lye burn and dried blood. He moved slowly, careful, like he wasn't burying something but tucking it in. She didn't move, didn't blink, just watched, then turned from the window like she'd seen nothing at all. At breakfast, he was quiet. So was she. Only the sound of the knife against the bread, the ticking of the old wall clock, the pop of the fire. She poured his coffee. He didn't say thank you. She didn't expect him to. He said, "Something woke me." "What kind of something?" "Sound. Small. Like a breath caught in wood." She looked at him. "You sleep with your ears open?" "Only when I'm waiting." "Waiting on what?" "An answer." "Ask a question." He didn't. She passed him the salt. "Eat before it goes cold." The soap hardened faster than usual. The air felt thicker. Fat didn't render clean. He said, "This batch doesn't smell right." "You blame the fat?" "I blame what's under the house." She didn't respond. He added, "Or near the orchard." She looked up. "You touched something." He wiped his hands. "I put something back." "What was it?" He didn't answer. She asked again, slower. "What was it?" He said, "A reminder." She stared at him. He stared at the soap. Afternoon. Cold wind. Low clouds. The kind of silence that bends trees the wrong way. She walked out past the barn, boots soft in the dirt. He wasn't in sight. She passed the fire pit, empty, past the shed, quiet, then past the orchard. She kept her eyes straight, didn't look at the mound he left behind. Not yet. She walked past it like she wasn't turning it over in her mind. Didn't stop until she reached the broken fence, hands in her coat, chin down, eyes on the ground. Then she turned. I looked once. The dirt was fresh. The shape was soft, round edges, about the size of a folded coat or a child's bundle. She walked back to the house without touching it. But she didn't stop thinking. That night, the sky stayed empty. No stars, no moon, just black. He was in the cot, breathing even. She stepped out without a lantern, without boots, ground cold. The grass is wet. She moved slowly, didn't carry a shovel, only her hands. She knelt by the orchard, fingers sunk into the mound. Soft earth, loosened easily. She pulled back dirt, then more, nails black with it. Then her hand hit the cloth. She paused, breathed, pulled it out. It was wrapped tight, stiff from whatever soaked through. Muslin, same as before, but older now, wetter. She opened it. Inside, soft weight. A strip of scorched leather, a belt buckle, bent, something round, a button maybe, metal, then something that wasn't metal, something pink. She leaned closer. Flesh, cooked, damp, gray around the edges. Not big. Maybe a hand, maybe a cheek. She dropped it. I stood back, breathed through her teeth, stared at the bundle in the dirt, then dropped her coat over it and walked back to the house. Bare feet, no rush. Inside, she didn't speak. He was still sleeping. She sat at the table, lit the lamp, and waited. The fire smoked early. He'd lit it before sunrise. The copper pot sat over the stone ring, already warm. She walked out holding the bucket of raw fat. He didn't greet her. She dropped the bucket by the fire. "Pig this time." "Too clean," he said. "You want cleaner?" "No," he said. "Cleaner burns faster." She watched him stir the water with a long wooden paddle. His hands were wrapped. The cloth was black in places, wet in others. "Cut it into strips," he said. "I know how to butcher." "You know how to boil?" "Don't need to." "That's your part." He glanced up. "You watch. You'll learn." "I'm not watching." "Then you'll burn it." She sighed, picked up the knife, and began slicing. By mid-morning, the pot was rolling. Steam curled around her boots. The fat melted into thick white pieces. The smell clung to the roof of her mouth. He said, "Keep stirring." She did. He added the lye slowly, carefully. She said, "Looks like brains." He said, "Brains smell better." She laughed once, short. He said, "Have you ever been alone before?" "Once." "How'd it go?" "Didn't keep." "Why not?" "Used bad fat." He shook his head. "Fat's never the problem. Are you blaming the pot?" "I'm blaming the hands." She kept stirring. He stepped back, wiped his brow. "You get used to the heat?" she asked. "No." "You flinch less. You burn deeper." By noon, the wind picked up. He stepped behind the smokehouse to piss. She watched the boil. When he came back, she was shaking her hand, hissing through her teeth. "What happened?" "Spit from the pot." He knelt, took her wrist. She tried to pull it back. I said, "I'm fine." "You didn't say anything." "I don't need help." He unwrapped the cloth from his own hand, tore a clean strip from the inside, wrapped hers in slow turns. She watched his face. He didn't look up once. You ain't touched me since you came, she said. I don't touch people. You're doing it now. This ain't touching. What is it? Binding. She said nothing. When he was done, he tied the knot without a word and stood up. She looked at the steam. You get burned. Every time. Later inside, he brought in a fresh bar from the shed. She laid it on the table, sliced it into squares. He said, That batch is holding. It's the fat. It's the hand. She ignored that. He pointed at the scar on the back of her neck. That from the boil. No. Fire? It doesn't matter. It does. Are you trying to read me? No. She turned to him. Then stop staring. He looked away. She said, You're not the only one who came here burned. He said, I didn't come here to be clean. She said, Neither did I. That night, they ate in silence. Fire low, soup thick. He said, You want me gone? She said, No. You sure? If I did, you'd already be gone. He wiped his mouth. Have you ever lived with someone who talked in their sleep? My husband didn't talk. Did he breathe? Not when I last saw him. He set down his spoon. You killed him. She said, You always ask the worst way? I don't believe in small talk. She said, Then you won't like my answers. He said, You bury him on your own. She didn't look at him. I didn't bury him. He blinked. She said, I boiled him. He didn't speak again for the rest of the meal. The next morning, she woke up to a note. Written on a soap wrapper, it read, Down at the creek, not far. She didn't like that. She didn't follow right away. She waited until noon. When she reached the creek, he was squatting by the edge, holding a tin bowl. What is that? She asked. Testing temperature. Of what? Water's faster than lye. You can skim meat better down here. You brought fat? No. Then what the hell are you skimming? He looked at her, then looked down into the bowl. She stepped closer. Inside, a strip of cloth, half melted, flesh-colored. What is that? Came up on its own. You lie. I don't. She stepped back. He poured it into the creek, let it float. She said, Have you ever boiled something that used to have a name? He looked at her. I asked a question, she said. I heard. He said, Yes. She didn't breathe. He stood, wiped his hands on his pants, then said, You? She sliced the hardened bars like she always did. Steady, measured, each cut clean through the pale flesh of the soap. Then she paused, ran her thumb across the top edge. There, carved. Rough, shallow, GE. She stared at the letters. Soap flaked off under her nail. Did you do this? She asked. He didn't look up, was at the fire pit, trimming fat from the next boil. I asked you a question. He said, You're the one with the knife. She held up the bar. GE. You carved that? He stood. I walked over. I looked once, then said, I didn't need to. What does that mean? It means sometimes names show up where they want. She pressed the edge of the bar into the table. You think I'm scared of names. Number, I think you're scared of memory. That night she laid the bar on the windowsill. I watched it. The house stayed quiet. No steps. No wind. She stayed up. He didn't sleep either. Sat at the hearth with his shirt off, skin red from the boil pot steam. You always sit like that? She asked. When the air won't let me lie down. She didn't answer. He said, You know a man named George. She looked at the soap. Lots of George. This one lived here. Who told you that? He shrugged. Who said his name? No one. The soap did. She blinked slowly. Soaps don't talk, she said. You'd be surprised what it remembers. She opened the cellar the next morning. First time in months. He followed her to the door. You sure? No. She lit a lantern. He stayed at the top step. Was this his place? She nodded. Before the fire? During it. She stepped down. Dust shifted in the air. Floorboards groaned like breath held too long. He said, It still smells like smoke. She moved to the far wall. Unhooked a coat. Worn. Stiff. Burned at the sleeve. He said, That's it? She didn't answer. GE? He asked. Still nothing. She held the coat up, felt inside the pocket, pulled out a folded card. She opened it. Inside, a child's drawing. Crayon. Stick figures. One big, one small. Holding hands. He stepped down, took the edge of the coat. Have you ever buried him? I told you. I boiled him. Have you ever named him after? No. Then someone else did. They worked the next batch in silence. She strained. He stirred. The smell was wrong again. Too rich, too sharp. This ain't pig, she said. No. What did you use? What you gave me. I didn't give you anything new. Then the land did. She stepped back. You used meat from the ground. I used what came loose. From where? He stirred. She grabbed his arm. He stopped. From where? She said again. The orchard. You went back there? It called. Don't talk like that. It did. She let go. He went back to stirring. Later, she checked the new bars. Same carving. GE. Every one of them. She picked one up, broke it in half. Inside, nothing. Just soap. She dropped it in the bucket. Didn't speak. That night, she burned the bars in the fire. I watched them melt. I watched them hiss. He stood behind her. You think it won't come back? She said. George never came home. He said. That his coat behind the cellar door? She didn't answer. He stepped closer. You want me to say it for you? She turned. Say what? That you didn't finish what you started. She stepped back. He said, you boiled the body, but not the name. She said, names don't burn. He said, no, but they cling. She turned toward the fire. I watched the last piece of soap turn black. She knew before she reached the door. The draft was wrong. Wood is colder. The smell is sharper. Old ash, wet mold, rusted latch. She crouched, touched the seam. The cellar was cracked open. She hadn't touched it since the fire, since the night George disappeared. Her hand hovered above the iron ring. She didn't lift it. Not yet. He was chopping wood at the edge of the orchard. She didn't call him. She walked up slow, stood close. He didn't stop swinging. Did you open it? She asked. He split one more log, then paused. Open what? You know. He looked up. I don't touch what's locked. It wasn't locked. Then maybe it wanted out. She didn't blink. Don't say that. He dropped the axe. You want me to go check? No. You want me to lie? No. Then you don't want anything. She turned and walked away. At dinner, neither spoke. She ate slowly. He didn't eat at all. He stared at the wall like he was reading something. After a long time, she said, the fire started in the chimney. He didn't look at her. Spread fast. I was in the kitchen. George was down below. He reached for the spoon. I heard him yell. One time, then nothing. He stirred the stew, but didn't eat it. I sealed the trap door the next day. Didn't bury him. Didn't look for him. He said, you sure he was still in there? She didn't answer. He said, maybe he got out. Then where'd he go? Sometimes gone is safer than seen. That night, she stood at the trap door. No lantern, just the firelight flickering from the hearth. She touched the iron ring again. Pulled. The door groaned open. Stairs disappeared into the dark. She waited. Listened. Nothing moved. She grabbed a candle. Lit it. Stepped down. The wood creaked under her boots. The air shifted. Damp. Cold. At the bottom, it smelled of scorched rope and wet stone. She stepped forward. Shelves still stood. Half-burnt tools. Rusted tins. A bucket of blackened nails. She turned left. Then I froze. The back wall had changed. The bricks near the corner, pulled loose. Behind them, earth, dug up, then packed again. She knelt, ran her hand along the mortar. It flaked easily. Someone had been here, recently. In the morning, she waited for him by the well. He came up from the shed holding a sack of cut bars. You go down there? She asked. He nodded once. You dig? No. You see the bricks? I saw the gap. She narrowed her eyes. What's back there? I don't know yet. You didn't touch it. I don't need to. You hear anything? He nodded. What? He looked past her, said, a name. Whose? He whispered, not yours. They spent the afternoon boiling another batch. She didn't speak. He hummed, low, repeating. Not a song she knew. You hear that in the cellar? She asked. No. Then where? Same place you hear it. She gripped the stirring rod tighter. You carved the initials? She asked. No. They're fresh. I didn't say I didn't see them. She turned. What did they say? A W. She froze. He said, does that mean anything to you? She shook her head too quickly. He said, you lie worse when you're scared. That evening, she went back down alone, candle in hand, breath tight in her chest. She moved to the corner, pulled more bricks. Faster now! The dirt behind them was damp. She dug with her bare hands, nails full of earth. 2 feet in, her fingers hit something. Wood, flat, smooth. She cleared more. A box. Not large, not heavy. She pulled it out, set it on the floor. I opened it. Inside, ribbons, letters, a coin, and a photograph. A girl, maybe 10, holding a doll. Next to her, a boy in a uniform, sheriff badge pinned crooked. She stared. Then I turned the photo over, a name written faintly in pencil. Annie Wells. A.W. She brought the box upstairs, set it on the table. He was already there, whittling a soap mold. She placed the photograph in front of him. He stared at it. "You know her?" she asked. He didn't speak. "Answer me." "I knew her brother." "Who?" He looked up. "August Wells." "The sheriff?" He nodded. "That your brother?" He was. She stepped back. "You were the fire." He said. "I was part of it." She gripped the edge of the table. "He sent you here." "He didn't send me anywhere." "Then why?" He stared at the box. "To finish what I started." She sat down across from him, pulled the box close. "How'd it begin?" she asked. "Too long ago." "Tell me anyway." He took the coin, rolled it between his fingers. "George owed my brother land, money, something else." "What else?" He didn't answer. "He sent you to collect?" "Number he sent me a warning." "And you lit the house." "Number I watched it burn." She stared. "You watched him die?" "I watched something crawl up the stairs." She whispered. There was nothing left. He said, "Not above ground." That night, she went to the fire. I took a photograph. Hold it in the flame. I watched it curl. He stood behind her. "You think that'll undo it?" "No." "You want to forget her?" "I never knew her." He said, "You know her now." She threw the box in after. The coin landed last, clinked once, then silence. He said, "A W." She said, "Don't say it again." He didn't. She hadn't gone into town since the fire. But they needed flour, salt, new lye, 1 spool of thread. She made the list tight, neat, and folded it twice. He didn't ask where she was going. She didn't offer. As she saddled the mule, he stood by the barn door, arms crossed. "You'll come back?" "Why wouldn't I?" "Because something always follows you back." She tied the bag to the saddle. He said, "If they ask about me, they won't. And if they do, I'll lie better than you." He nodded once. "That's not hard." She left before the sun broke. The general store was colder than the outside air. The wood stove, barely lit, smelled like salt and ash. 3 people inside. 2 left when she stepped through the door. The woman behind the counter looked up once, then down again. She walked to the back, grabbed what she needed, set the items on. The counter. The woman didn't touch them. "Are you paying in coins or soap?" she asked. "Soap." The woman pushed the box back. "We don't take that kind anymore." She stared at her. "Since when?" "Since someone carved a dead boy's name in the bar." "I didn't carve anything." "Don't need to." She placed 2 wrapped bars down anyway. The woman stared at them. "That's your new man?" "He's not mine." "Then whose is he?" "It doesn't matter." The woman hesitated, then said, "The sheriff's been asking again." "Let him." "He doesn't ask nicely." "I don't answer nicely." She left the soap. I took the rest. Didn't wait for change. On the way back, 2 men passed her on the road. Didn't speak. Didn't tip their hats. But they looked at her hands. At her pack. One whispered something. She didn't turn. By the time she reached the house, the sky was low and hard. He was sitting on the porch, sharpening a small blade. "You make friends." "They won't take the soap." He nodded. "Doesn't clean the way they want." She untied the pack, dropped it on the step. "Someone talk to you?" he asked. "One woman." "What did she say?" "She remembers the boy." He stopped sharpening. "Which one?" "Yours." Inside, he unwrapped one of the new bars, held it to his nose. "Smells better." "Different fat." "Number different name." She watched him. He said, "The town knows now." She nodded. "You scared?" "No." "You should be." "I've been scared before. I'm tired of it." He tossed the bar into the fire. "Won't burn," she said. "It's not supposed to." Then why throw it? Because it keeps whispering. She didn't ask what it said. She already knew. That night, something knocked. Once, then nothing. She stood at the window. I saw no one. He was behind her. Wasn't the wind, he said. I know. You want me to check? No. You want me to stay? She nodded. Then we need to talk about what's coming. She sat down at the table. He stood at the door. There's more than whispers now, he said. There always was. I didn't come here to hide. I didn't let you in for peace. He looked over his shoulder. They'll send him. Who? My brother. I thought he was gone. He doesn't go. She didn't speak. He'll ride in when the sky turns red. That's how he always comes? That's how he ends it. Morning broke sharp. No frost, just stillness. She poured coffee, handed him a cup. You sleep? No. You dream? Always. She poured her own. What's his name? She asked. The boy. Number your brother. He looked down. Elias? Have you heard from him? Only in nightmares. She sipped, slowly. What did he do to the boy? He didn't answer. I need to know. He looked at her steady. He made soap out of him. Her hand stopped midair. He said, They said he ran off, but I saw what he boiled. She set the cup down. Why tell me now? Because you took me in. She didn't blink. I didn't take you in, she said. I watched you walk in. At noon, she heard hoofbeats, slow, measured, heavy. She stepped outside. Dust curled behind a single rider, black coat, wide hat, horse like stone. She didn't move. He came to a stop in front of the house, stared down at her. You the one running the fire now? He asked. She didn't speak. He dismounted, moved with care, like a man who already knew the end. He looked around once, at the barn, at the well, at the dead orchard, then back at her. You took him in, he said. She stayed still. You even know who he is? The sheriff stood with his boots near her step, like he owned the ground under them. You took him in, he said again. She didn't blink. He needed work. I had lye to boil. You even know who he is? I know what he does. Will he ever tell you his name? He said it didn't matter. It does. She looked past him. Not out here. He shifted. Dust fell off his coat like it carried its own weight. You ever wonder why he came to you? No. Have you ever asked what he ran from? I don't ask men why they're quiet. I'm just glad when they are. The sheriff tilted his head. You know who I am. I know you talk like someone wants to be feared. He looked toward the barn. You smell that? She didn't answer. He stepped closer to the well. Leaned down, inhaled once. Rot. She stayed on the porch. He said, You buried something here. You want to accuse me of something, Sheriff? Do it proper. He stood upright. I ain't accusing, I'm asking. She said, Then you ain't a sheriff. You're a man wandering close to my door. He didn't ride off. He walked the edge of her land, circled slow, checked the barn, the orchard, the cellar door. She watched from the window. Inside, the soap maker stood by the stove, arms crossed. You gonna stop him? He asked. She said, You want me to? He's not gonna stop himself. Let him walk. You sure? She nodded. He's not stupid. Neither am I. He looked out the window, too. He's looking for what I left behind. Then he won't find it. He turned to her. Are you sure about that? She didn't speak. He said, You don't lie well when you're angry. She turned from him. Then stop making me angry. When the sheriff knocked again, it was with the side of his boot. She opened the door, but didn't step out. He tipped his hat. You got a moment? No. I found something by your orchard. She stayed still. He pulled out a cloth bundle, untied it. Inside, a scrap of bone, a child's ribbon, a nail. Buried shallow, he said. She looked at the bundle, then at him. You think I put that there? I don't think it got there by itself. You dig up every woman's backyard or just the ones that say no. He smiled. That man inside, he's not your husband. No. He's not your kin. No. So why lie for him? She said, Because I'm not done with him yet. The smile left his face. You're not afraid of me. I was once, she said. That was enough. He left just before dusk, didn't say goodbye, didn't turn back. She watched his horse vanish into the tree line. The wind shifted. The well creaked. She turned. He stood behind her now. You shouldn't have said that, he said. Said what? That you're not done with me. It's the truth. No, it ain't. She stepped past him. He followed. You lied to me. Someone had to. You didn't need to. She looked at the well. I did. He waited. She said. He would have taken you. He said. You don't care about me. No, she said. I care about what you buried. They didn't eat that night. The soup stayed cold. Bread untouched. She sat at the table. He paced the wall. He said, You think lying buys time? It buys silence. Not from him. She looked up. He didn't leave quietly. He said, He'll be back. I know. You ready? No. He stopped pacing. She said, Why'd you come here? He didn't answer. She asked again, Why this house? I followed the smell. She stared at him. He said, Your land called something out of me. What did it say? He sat across from her. That it needed help hiding. She whispered, Did you hear it from the well? He nodded. Later she walked out alone, lantern in hand, wind behind her. She stood by the well. I looked down, tossed a stone in, waited. No sound. He stepped up beside her. You know what's down there? He asked. No. I do. Then say it. He looked at her. You already know. She gripped the lantern. He said, You covered for me. Why? She didn't look at him. Because the wind had changed. Because the sheriff had returned. Because the well was still breathing. She said, Because I know what you buried. He didn't move. She added, And I know it wasn't the first. He said, Won't be the last either. She nodded, then blew the lantern out. She brought him the juniper from behind the shed, clipped from the old bush that hadn't bloomed in years. He crushed the berries in his palm, sniffed, and frowned. Smells clean, he said. Not too clean, number just enough to hide. What's under it? She dropped a strip of cloth into the pot. That's the point. He looked at her. We're making this for him. She nodded. For the sheriff? She didn't answer. He stirred the lye in with the back end of a spoon. It hissed as it touched the water. This is a bad idea. Why are you helping? He smiled. Bad ideas need good hands. They worked all morning. No words, just the crack of wood, the roll of steam, the clink of metal against the pot. She added vinegar. He added bone ash. She said, That's not a pig. He said, It's not yours either. She looked at the cloth-wrapped bundle he kept near the fire, still warm from the boil. You carry that everywhere? Only when I want it remembered. She didn't press. He lifted the paddle, pale yellow slick at the surface. Have you ever given a man his own smell before? She said, Only once. He said, What happened to him? She didn't answer. He didn't ask again. By mid-afternoon, the mold was ready. Wooden box lined with muslin, smooth and clean. She ladled the soap slowly, carefully. Steam lifted like breath. He stood behind her, silent. When she stepped away, he stepped in, carved something into the soft top. She didn't look. You gonna tell me? She asked. No. You carve your name? No. His? No. She watched his hand move, deliberate. When he was done, he covered it with a linen square. She said, I'll take it in the morning. He said, I'll be here when you get back. She paused, then said, You better be. That night, they ate together, beans, bread, the last of the root stew. Neither said much. She chewed slower than usual. He drank more. She finally asked, You trust me with it? I wouldn't have carved it otherwise. You think he'll open it? I think he won't know how not to. She stared at the window. He said, Are you nervous? No. Lying again. She said, You don't know how far I've already gone. He nodded. I know. You think he'll see it? He'll feel it first. They didn't speak again until the fire went cold. Morning came hard. Gray sky, muddy trail. She packed the wrapped mold into a small sack, tied it tight, wiped her hands twice before picking it up. He stood by the gate as she mounted the mule. You want me to come? No. You sure? Better if I'm alone. He nodded once. She didn't say goodbye. He didn't ask her to. The sheriff was behind the post desk, hat low, boots up. He looked up as she entered. You come back. I brought something. She placed the wrapped box on the counter. He looked at it, didn't touch it. What is it? You said the soap here didn't clean the way you wanted. He sat up straighter. She said, Try this one. He pulled back the linen, sniffed, juniper, vinegar, something sharp. He lifted one bar, turned it in his hand. No mark. Look again, she said. He flipped it. Carved in the bottom. Faint. Almost smooth. 017. He stared at it. Eyes narrowed. Then I saw the cloth. Thin scrap pressed to the bottom. Pale red. He pulled it free. Hold it between your thumb and finger. Stiff. Cotton. Faded numbers stitched in the edge. He read them once. His jaw set. You find this in your well? No. You dig it up? No. You make this? She nodded. His voice dropped. You know what this is? Yes. You know what it means? Yes. He stared at the bar again, then placed it back in the box, covered it, didn't say another word. She left without waiting. Didn't look back. When she reached home, he was waiting on the porch. She handed him the empty sack. He opened it, sniffed the inside. Anything left? No. Did he open it? Yes. Say anything. No. Good. She sat beside him. He said, he'll come back. I know. You scared? No. Me neither. They watched the trees shift in the wind. Then she asked, what did you carve? He said, a number. She waited. He said, the boy's badge number, the one he never got to wear. She looked down at her hands. You think that's enough? He said, it's not enough. She whispered, then what is it? He looked at the sky and said, it's about what stays on a man's skin when he tries to wash it off. He smelled it before he saw it. Thick, sharp, sweet rot curled out from the smokehouse like a memory turned to steam. He stepped through the door slowly. She was already there. No apron, no gloves, just her hands in the rising cloud. The boil pot bubbled low. Not fat, not soap, something else. She didn't look at him. He stepped closer. What is it? She didn't answer. He watched the pot. I watched the water churn in slow turns. Then he saw it, a gold band floating, thin, warped. He said, that used to be worn. She reached in, pulled it out with the hook, dropped it on the counter. It clinked, still warm. She picked it up with her bare fingers, rolled it once in her palm, then set it down like it never meant anything. He circled the pot. You boiled something? Yes. Why now? Felt like time. He looked in again. What was it? She said. You already know. No, he said. I only guess. She didn't blink. Guess right. He stared at her, then said, George. She nodded. You said he burned. He did. Then what's that? She reached in again, pulled up a lump, white, pale. She held it out, small, cleaned bare. Bone, she said. He didn't move. You burned him, then buried him, then dug him up. She said, no. He said, then how? I didn't bury him. Then who did? She dropped the bone back into the pot. He flinched at the splash. You're not the only one who came running from something, she said. He stepped back. How long was it under? A year, maybe more. You left him? I left him where he belonged. He said, people don't rot that quiet. She said, he was already gone before I boiled him. They stood in silence. The smell of bone soaked into the walls. He leaned on the table. You boiled a man who wore your ring. She said, no. He wore his own. Then who wore yours? She walked to the far wall, pulled down a tin box. I opened it. Inside, 3 rings, 1 gold, 1 iron, 1 made of dark wood. She held them out. He didn't touch them. Those yours? They were given. To you? No. To who then? She said, to the parts of me I burned off already. He walked out. She stayed. The bone kept spinning in the water. She watched until the bubbles stopped, then lifted it again, set it on the windowsill to dry. He was waiting on the porch. She came out with the tin box, set it between them. You still want to know what I buried? She asked. He didn't speak. She opened the box, laid the rings out in a line. This one's from a man who said I owed him for breathing. He stared. This one's from a boy who cried when he touched me. He didn't blink. This one, she said, tapping the gold, came with George. He said, that one from the pot. She nodded. He asked, why now? She closed the box. Because the sheriff came sniffing. You think it'll lead him back? She said, he already knows. They didn't sleep. She cleaned the pot in silence. He burned the cloth she used. In the morning, she placed the bone in the ash bucket. He watched her do it. You going to keep it? No. Why not? Because names cling to bones. He nodded. Have you given it a name yet? I gave it back to him, she said. You think that matters? She said, no. But you did it anyway. Yes. Later, she pulled the last bar from the cooling rack. Hold it to the light. Inside, a fragment, barely visible. He stepped behind her. You put part of him in there? She didn't look. He said, you think that's mercy? She turned. Number, I think it's proof. He stared at the soap. It's clean, she said. Not all the way. He nodded. You did it before I ever came, he said. She said, you just helped me name it. She heard the laugh first. Small, quick, bright like it didn't belong. She opened her eyes and sat up slowly. Dark room, fire dead, cold floor under her bare feet. She stood, crossed to the back window, stared into the orchard. Nothing moved, but she knew what she heard. She waited. He stepped into the room, coat half buttoned. You heard it? She nodded. He rubbed his jaw. That's not George. No. He stared at the window, too. She always comes back after the boiling. She didn't ask how he knew that. He already knew she believed it. They didn't speak the next morning. He stacked wood. She stirred the pot. Soap cooled in a half-moon mold on the shelf. She poured coffee but didn't drink it. I watched the door. He said, she's behind the house. She said, I know. Not buried deep. No. He wiped his hands on a cloth, stepped to the door. You want me to dig her? She stared at the orchard. I want to know who it was. He paused, then said, it ain't who you think. They waited until sundown. He brought the shovel. She brought the lamp. The trees were brittle with cold. The ground near the edge of the orchard was softer than it should have been. He stabbed the shovel in. She said, I thought it was George. He kept digging. She said, when I buried him, I told myself I'd never do it again. He said, you didn't. The earth gave way. A small bundle came up quickly, wrapped in dark cloth, damp, heavy. He set it down. She knelt beside it, hands shaking. She unwrapped the corner. Then I froze. Small bones, wrong shape, too small for a man, too light for George. She pulled the cloth back farther, tiny ribs, child's jaw. She let out one breath. This ain't him. He knelt too. No. This ain't even a man. He said, it's a girl. She stared at the skull. You knew. I guessed. She didn't move. He said, George didn't haunt you. She did. She looked at him. Why? He didn't answer. They carried the bones to the smokehouse, laid them out on the cloth. She touched the edge of the skull. Just once. Too small for 10. Too big for 5. She whispered, I never saw her. He said, you heard her. She nodded. He said, she's been under there a long time. Longer than George. Yes. She was here before the fire. She never left. That night, the well creaked louder. The back door opened without wind. He sat with the shovel across his knees. She stitched the cloth shut. He said, you know her name? No. You want to? No. Why not? She said, names stick. He said, ghosts don't need names. Just a memory. She looked up. She belonged to this place. He nodded. She wasn't mine, she said. She is now. In the morning, she didn't boil fat. She didn't stir. She lit a fire and burned the cloth instead. I watched the smoke curl black and thin. He watched from the porch. You think she's gone? He asked. No. You want her gone? She didn't ask to be. They stood a long while in the cold. Then he said, we still don't know who buried her. She said, it wasn't me. He said, no. But it might have been him. She looked at the well. He said, you think George had secrets? She whispered, I think I married one. They walked the property. He pointed to the old foundation by the orchard. You ever wonder what stood there? She nodded. Old house, she said. Before this one? Yes. Who lived in it? She said, the Maples, remember? I don't. He crouched, picked up a nail from the dirt. Rust streaked. Bent. She said, we built it on top of rot. He said, it never stays buried. That night, she dreamt again. Laughter near the well. A dress caught in the wind. A girl's voice saying, Mama, the soap smells like me. She woke up gasping. He was already standing at the window. You heard her too? She asked. He nodded. She spoke this time. He turned. She's not done, she said. Neither are we. He grabbed the shovel. You coming? He asked. She grabbed the lamp. Anne followed. They dug behind the barn, found more bones. 2, 3. All small, all shallow, all silent. She whispered. She wasn't alone. He nodded. She said, What is this place? He said, A house built by men who thought nothing screams when it's buried. She dropped to her knees. The lamp shook in her hands. He said, You think you're cursed. She looked at the bones. I think I inherited one. The sun didn't rise the next morning, or maybe they didn't notice. They sat in the smokehouse, bones laid out on a board. She cleaned each one. He boiled water, but no lie. He said, You want to bury them again? No. You want to burn them? No. What then? She whispered. They need to be seen. He nodded. Then we'll leave them here, he said. Where they can speak. She looked toward the door. The well hadn't creaked once all night, and for the first time she thought maybe it didn't need to anymore. She dug the hole by herself. No shovel, just her hands. The ground gave way, like it had already been turned once. She didn't look at him. He stood by the tree line, arms crossed, watching like he'd seen this before. She said, Don't help. He said, I wasn't going to. She kept digging. When the hole was deep enough, she set the bundle down. It was small, wrapped in muslin, tied tight. She didn't cry, didn't speak, just covered it back up, pressed the dirt flat. No marker, no stone, no name, just the soil, breathing. She stood. He walked toward her. You sure? He asked. She nodded. No words? No, not even hers. She was never given any. He nodded. They stood in silence as the wind moved around them. Back inside, the boil pot sat cold. She filled it anyway. Dropped in fat, lye, vinegar. He lit the fire. Neither of them spoke. He said, This the last one? She nodded. He stirred. The scent rose up. Juniper. Ash. Bone. He said, You want me to carve it? No. You want a name? No. He looked at her. She didn't look back. He said, You've named everyone until now. I named too many things that didn't deserve it. She said, This one ends with nothing. He kept stirring. She laid out the mold, cut a strip of muslin frayed at the edges. He poured the mix slowly. She smoothed the top with the back of a spoon. Steam rose. He said, Smells different. It's the right kind of fat. From where? She didn't answer. He didn't ask again. She said, You'll leave now? He said, You want me to? She shrugged. He said, That's not an answer. She said, You don't need one. He stood there, watching the soap settle. That night, she sat by the door, knife in hand. He packed his things. The knife wasn't for him. He knew that. She said, You knew from the start, didn't you? He said, I knew something was still breathing under this house. Have you ever lied to me? No. Have you ever hidden something? He paused, then said, Yes. She nodded. That girl, she said. Do you think she was ever mine? He said, She didn't belong to anyone. She came from somewhere. She came from silence. The fire died. They didn't light another. She sat with the mold cooling beside her. He stood by the door with his pack. Are you going to stay in the winter? She asked. He said, I think you've survived worse. She nodded. He said, You think you'll be clean now? No. He waited. She said, But I think the land might. He opened the door. Stopped. You'll bury the soap? No. Burn it? No. He nodded. She said, I'll keep it. He said, For who? She said, For me. After he left, she scraped the edges. Smooth, sharp, clean. No names carved, no initials. She folded the muslin back over it, tied the knot herself, then placed it in the box with the others. All the rest had stories. This one had weight. She stood by the door, listened. No creak from the well, no footstep in the orchard, just the still. Not peace, not justice, but balance. The land smelled clean for the first time in years, and she didn't trust it.